Hey guys, I'm just doing a quick overview on how to do scansion using some of the rules that I've developed to help myself do it, and hopefully this proves helpful. So the three rules that I've developed are in order of easy to hard in terms of figuring out which ones are short and which ones are long in a line. So the first one is to fill out the freebies. And what I mean by that is that you have certain vowels which will always be long or short depending on where they are in the line. And so those are the free ones that you're given every time. The second one is to fill in whatever is left. So you can maybe process of elimination some other syllables out of that. And then the third one is usually the hardest one, which is just figure out what's remaining. And hopefully we don't have to go to that, but just in case, it's the third one for when the first two don't really work. So first let's start with freebies. Now the most important freebie you should know is the end, which is always going to be a dactyl and then a spondee. So in the end here, we're already given the last 2 feet for free. And so we know that here when we have our urus and then an ob, that's going to be a dactyl, so it's long, short, short. And then at the end, when we have alto, these are both long because it's a spondee, which is long and long. In addition to that, we also know that the first syllable of this line will always be long because every feet is going to start with a long, whether it's a spondee or a dactyl. So this dors, even though it would be long anyway, we already know is long. And so that's kind of the freebies. Another example of good freebies are when they're long by position. So like sumo or amane. Both of these have 2 M's, which are both consonants, and any time a vowel is followed by 2 consonants, we know that that vowel will be long, which gives us a free long. And so freebies like that are really important because they help us fill out these syllables, which otherwise would look pretty daunting. And so once we have those, we can start to fill out more. Another one that you might remember Mr. Davis saying is that when we have this O, like in sumo, at the end of it, it's long. And even if you just say it, you can kind of think, well, sumo, I guess that sounds long. But just remember that those O's are long. And so because you have a long here, you can start to fill it in, which is the second rule. Because there has to be a full foot right here in front of urus. We know that because there's only one syllable after this long, it can't be 2 shorts because there's not another syllable. It can only be a long and then another long, since that's the only thing that fits. And that's what you do with fill-in, is you start to fill in things where other things don't fit. Another great example is if we look at the second line, which is 111, we can see that we have erget. And this erg has to be long, right? Because it's 2 consonants and a vowel, which means that this u has to be long. So if we know that this erget is long, because it's the second of these 2 syllables in a foot, it can't be a dactyl, because a dactyl is going to be a long, a short, and a short, right? So it has to end with these shorts. If it ends with a long, it has to be a spondee, which means that the vowel in front of the erget, this s here, also has to be long. So that's the type of thing you do with fill-in, is you do process and elimination. It's almost like doing a Sudoku, where you actually fill in things based on where you know the other numbers are. And so that's the idea with fill-ins. And so if you're still kind of a little bit confused, that's fine, because I haven't actually done a line yet, I've just been showing examples. And so now I'm going to look at this line and try to figure it out using these 3 rules. The first thing I'm going to do is what I always do with freebies, and I start to fill in these free ones. So we know that it ends in the spondee, which means this I here is long, and this N is long. And so we put 2 longs, and then we end that foot. The next thing we know is that kinget and the ha here in haranai are also long, short, and short because that's a dactyl. So we've already been giving those 2 for free, right? And we end that foot there too. We also know that up in front we have a long because it's the first part of this segment. And so now that we have those freebies, we start to look at some of the other freebies. So this itque, because there's 2 consonants, also has to be long. In addition to that, we can keep looking and look at atque, which is another example where we have a vowel and 2 consonants. Also, we have an easy elision, which is right here with the que and the auger. And because of that, we can eliminate this e, elide them together. And since this is AGG, we know this also has to be long, right? So we put a little long mark right there. And I like to make my long marks extra long through over an elision just so I remember there's an elision there. And so now we've kind of taken the freebies and we have to look a little more carefully. We know that there's an E and an E here, right? And so we don't actually know what these are yet, and we'll come back to those. But we do know that there's a long and a long here, which is going to be helpful. The other thing that we know is that we have this edit right here. And so because it's in lead dit, and this it has to be long, and this in is long, this is a good example of a fill-in, because we can't fit 2 shorts in this little space. We have to fit 1 long, because there's only 1 syllable instead of 2. So we already have 3 feet, and that's good. Now, the next thing we can do, which is going to be really helpful, is to keep looking and think what we have in this line coming up. So we have 3 feet, which means we have 3 feet left. There's an array here, which is another 2 syllables. There's 2 syllables here, so it's a total of 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we have 7 more syllables in addition to 3 we have, which is a total of 10 to fit in these 3 small parts. And so if we do some math there, what we know is that we have to have at least a couple of dactyls because otherwise we won't be able to fit, right? If we were to fit only spondees here, we'd be left with extra syllables. And so we can assume that this array would probably be 2 shorts and form a dactyl just because we're starting to run out of space. And with that reasoning, we also know that this wadis would probably also be another long because this has to be a spondee since we're running out of space. And so as a result of that, we have 2 more feet that are here. And with those 2 extra feet, we have a total of 5, which means we only have this last one left right here. And so we have it, que, and wad. And so because that's 3 left, and we already have the first one being a long, we know that in order for it to all fit, this last one has to be a dactyl as well. So this que and this wad are both shorts, and that forms a dactyl. And so we have a full line right here. And the idea is that we started by filling out the freebies, and after we have the freebies, we thought, okay, well, in order for it to fit, we can't have all of them be spondees. We have to have at least 2 of them be dactyls. So you figure out which ones look more like dactyls, and then after that you fill those in, and you have a full line. So that's basically the end of this practice session. Hopefully you guys find it helpful and you can keep doing the practice on your own with those 3 rules in mind.